what we as voters should do. I wrote this all down because I'll forget half of it. When we reach the 2015, and I know that you would very much like.
I want you to re-elect me, if that's not what he said.
Yes, I
don't want to let the cat out of the bag. I'm trying to run again. So
anyway, my question is, what are we going to do before the 2015 election to create a formidable opposition to Stephen Harper?
Right.
As it seems unlikely that Tom Mulcair and Justin Trudeau will agree to a coalition with the Green Party. How can we make this possible other than voting for the strongest candidate in our riding who is not a Conservative? And to me that's a negative vote. And secondly, if this doesn't happen, what do we do? How do we take back our democracy?
Exactly.
Do we take to the streets? Because
well, we should have taken the streets.
I agree with you. Yeah. So those are my questions.
Okay. Well, first thing is, and this won't surprise those of you who've come to other town hall meetings, because I think I've said it before. My goal is to see Stephen Harper removed from the Prime Minister's office and the role of Prime Minister way before the next election. Now, I think that's why I drew so much encouragement and draw encouragement from Brett Rathgaber.
Yes.
And another thing that didn't get much attention was, and I know the Senate has become, all the focus is on the spending, but Hugh Segal, who was one of the last surviving Red Tories anywhere in Parliament, and he's a progressive Conservative senator, and the caucus of Conservative senators under Stephen Harper has been just as tightly controlled to do whatever he tells them to do as the House of Commons MPs. But right after the House rose for the summer, at the end of June, the Senate was continuing to debate this really mean-spirited bill to skewer trade unions by requiring greater reporting out of trade unions than any other, well, certainly than management. So management would know a lot more about the resources of, anyway, to make a long story short, it's a private member's bill that was one of many bills that have come out of the Conservatives that are essentially against unions. And whatever you think about collective bargaining, the cool thing that happened was that the Conservative senators balked, led by Hugh Segal. 9 other Conservatives refused to vote the way Harper told them to vote, and that bill got amended.
Oh, fantastic!
You see, so I see that. I think that this is one of the reasons that Stephen Harper wanted to prorogue. It's not only is he out of his agenda, so he's got a moment, but his control is slipping away. Yeah. And before, this was something else that happened in the spring session of Parliament I didn't report to you about because I haven't seen you since then. I don't know how many of you heard about Mark Warra, who is a Langley, BC Conservative Member of Parliament, who made a point of order to the Speaker, an argument that his rights of free speech had been infringed by the government whip, whose name is Gordon O'Connor, telling him he couldn't make his member's statement. And he was supported by 8 other Conservative backbenchers. Now that was significant. Now the Speaker ruled, and the government whip's response was, and I spoke in favor of Mark Warra, because the whip had just said, Gordon O'Connor got up and said, look, Mr. Speaker, this member for Langley is basically like one of my players. And this is like a hockey game. You're the umpire, I'm the coach. You don't decide what players this is literally what he said. You don't decide what players I put out on the ice. I'm the coach, I decide. And the member for Langley is asking you to stop being the umpire and start being the coach. And I stood up and I said, of course, as you would know, I probably ranted often enough about it to say, look, the House of Commons is not a set of sports teams. We're here to work for our constituents and do the people's business. And it's absolutely wrong and epitomizes everything that's wrong with our democracy that the government whip would say that this is like a hockey match. This is a democracy, and each member of Parliament is equal, including the Prime Minister. It's supposed to be first among equals, but this is not a sporting match. What was great was the Speaker ruled, this is another point of his better rulings, that he said the government whip is absolutely wrong. The only person in the chamber to decide who gets to speak is the Speaker, not the government whips. the MPs have an equal right of free speech, and it's the speaker's role to make sure that there's a balanced and fair opportunity for everybody to speak. Then he said, on a technicality basically, he said the member for Langley made the mistake of accepting the word of his whip when he was told he couldn't speak. He didn't try. He didn't stand up and try to get my eye. But from now on, when people stand up and try to get my eye, catch my attention, I'll recognize them as I can. So I started standing up all the time, right? Every question and question period, I figured out taking his words. But I was doing it also to encourage the others.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is, so we had Mark Bora, and the media in this country does Harper's Business Forum very effectively. All jumped on the media spin of this was to say that there was a caucus of conservatives who are trying to get rid of a woman's right to choose. They're all motivated by a right to life agenda, which had the effect of marginalizing their efforts. I don't care what their issue was. They have a right of free speech in the House of Commons. And of course, I also knew that a number of the MPs who stood up and supported Mark Bora completely support a woman's right to choose, are very progressive. Even, they may be members of the Conservative Party, but they certainly weren't trying to run down a woman's right to choose. They were trying to defend the right of free speech. So at the end, and I know from a number of the other conservatives in the backbenches, that they don't call their caucus a right to life caucus. They're very quiet about it, but they call it the democracy caucus. So I want to help these as much as I can. I think the public should support them. And unfortunately, the media never reported how Mark Bora was punished. He'd been chair of the Environment Committee, and for standing up and asking about his right to speak, he was removed as committee chair. The only place that appeared was when I wrote it in Island Tides. You probably already know it. But it didn't get covered anywhere else. So, okay, so step one about 2015.
Okay.
I want to get rid of Harper before 2015.
Well, I'm with you.
And I think we can, if we stay focused on that. Part of the problem with jumping the gun to what do we do in 2015, which occupies a great many people on internet and in progressive movements, is it has the effect unintentionally of accepting that Harper's there till 2015.
Sure.
And I think it's important to say, we can't stand this one more minute. Not one more day, not one more minute. Every day he's there, he does something more to destroy our country. We're not taking it for one more minute. The other thing is a coalition. How do we get Mulcair and Trudeau to cooperate?
Yeah.
Not easy.
No.
But it's my mandate to try to keep working on it. So all I can say is, and when I say it's my mandate, it's because the Green Party is run by its membership, and at the convention that was held in Sydney last summer, a motion was passed, and it was ratified by the full membership afterwards, that we must try to get an agreement for one time, one election only, that we'll all cooperate with the commitment when the election is over, we'll get rid of first past the post. And then we never have to cooperate again. So it's one time only. Now that is something that I think is worth working on. I've been trying. I have in various by-elections offered cooperation ideas to the various parties, so far without success. But we'll keep trying. At least help provide better information for people. And we plan as Greens, we'll probably run everywhere, but we certainly plan to work harder in some places than others, because it's our goal in the next election to have that full caucus of 12 MPs, so that we're able to be on the committees and have questions and question period every day, and ideally influence the other parties more effectively. By being more than one person, we'll have greater influence on the others to try to get the changes that we need to see made. And that's basically, it's an ongoing effort at cooperation.